Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Graduate Journey. Today we have Mehak joining us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mehak. I was raised in Dubai, and I'm studying at the University of Southern California as a freshman.
First of all, what major are you studying at USC?
So I'm a business administration major, but I actually got into USC as an international relations and global business major, but I wasn't really enjoying that pathway, so I decided to swap into Marshall.
Yep, that's great. And so, along with USC, did you apply to any other colleges for either business or international relations?
So I applied, most of the colleges that I applied to were either business or international relations. I applied to just some of them. I applied to, I would say, 10 in the US and like some in the UK. So in the US, some that I applied to were Northeastern, BU, UCLA, Emory, Washington, George Washington, Indiana. And yeah, those are some that I applied to. Oh yeah, and Claremont McKenna.
Do you have any future career goals or future career prospects, or during college, are you planning on doing any interviews during the summers or anything like that?
So I would say right now I'm a little bit confused as to what field I want to go into particularly, but I'm going to use this year and next year to do internships to kind of hone down on what I want to do. So some examples would be like maybe private equity and venture capitalist is kind of what I'm looking into right now, or consulting. But yeah, I'm also really interested in startup and entrepreneurship. So I'm going to kind of do the clubs that they have at USC, which are honestly super, super helpful because there's a lot of a big array of clubs that can help you figure out what perspective career pathway you want to get into. So I'm going to do the clubs and then over the summer, hopefully do some internships and see whether and which field I'm interested in.
If you did IB, what were your HLs and SLs?
So I actually did GCSE and then I did IB. So GCSE is the British curriculum. And within GCSE, for my options, obviously I took triple science. I took English, literature, and language. And then for my options, I took French, business, economics, and psychology. And then for IB, I took 4 HLs. So I graduated with that. I did business, economics, biology, and English lit lang HL, and French and math standard level.
Right. And for HLs, that must have been a large workload. And so if you don't mind, could you just share your predicted and final grades and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So I was actually our school predicts one core point. So I was predicted 43. So I was actually predicted perfect score. And I ended up graduating with a 39 because I didn't actually sit the exams. So they kind of did it based on IAs and tests that we did throughout the year. But I was pretty okay with the 39. I mean, considering I didn't sit exams. But yeah, what I think that really pushed my application was the perfect score that I was predicted.
Along with the IB, did you, or during GSC or stuff like that, did you do any extra credit scores like AP or anything like that?
So I did 2 SAT subject tests. I did math and French.
Do you think actually doing those, it was a worthwhile use of your time, or do you think it's just a small thing that if someone doesn't do it, then it's fine?
I think that if you want to be a business major, I think that a math subject test plays a really big part because it is actually quite important. And I know I didn't apply as a business major, but I did IRGB, which is kind of like a double kind of program with business and with international relations. So I think that having the math subject test is important. And the French one, I kind of just did for fun. I didn't really study for it. I know French quite well, so I just kind of winged it. But yeah, if you don't have a strong HL, like if you're going into business or if you're going into whatever major and you don't have like a really like hard HL, I would recommend doing a SAT subject test. And I did the SAT and the ACT, but I dropped the ACT because it just wasn't for me. So I submitted my SAT scores.
Okay, and do you mind sharing how much you got on your SAT?
Yeah, so I ended up getting with the super score, I ended up getting 1440, and without super score it was like 1420.
It's great, congrats. And so now another large part of a US application, beside grades, is the extracurriculars, right? So do you mind sharing some of the extracurriculars you did?
Sure. So I would say like the main premise of my kind of application outside of grades was this like social venture that I took part in, which was called My Wakanda. So I co-founded this, and it was basically dedicated to educating rural girls in Uganda, which is my birth town, about the importance of feminine hygiene and health. So I ran a 4-day workshop, and I paired with a charity initiative called Smiles that funded the workshop and distributed reusable sanitary napkins for, sanitary pads for the girls, and they also helped raise a lot of um, products like hygiene products like soaps. We also created um, like pouches with stationery, and that was a huge project that I actually, I involved my school in it. I involved the Smiles Initiative in it. A lot of people were involved in it because I was running it as like the co-founder of My Wakanda. I think that played a huge part because it was quite a big project. So that's what one of the projects that I took part in. I also did some internships that probably helped out as well. Other than that, I ran a business club in my school. So, showing that kind of business leadership initiative and ability. I also did emceeing. So I emceed for Sadhguru, who is like a motivational speaker. So I think that that also added on to the application. Um, but yeah, those were some of the things that I think pushed my application and really stood out.
Right. And so you mentioned your internships, right? So, for the internships, how did you go about getting the internships in the first place? Was it through school or through any personal connections, or was there any other way or platform you used to actually get the internships?
So as a school going student, it's really hard to get internships. I would say the first place where you should look for are personal contacts, and I think that those really help um, the most. One of my internships was through the school, was actually through one of my teachers in school who had recommended me. So I think that definitely make use of your teachers as well and build that connection with them so they can help you get the internship, and
R-
obviously personal contacts.
Yeah. And okay, so apart from your internships and the business club and stuff like that, were there any other key activities or competitions that you took part in that you think made you stand out?
So I took part in the UKM, I think it was the UKMT, which is like a standardized maths test. So I don't think that played a huge role in my application because I didn't score very high, but I think that just showing that you take part in challenges that, or like rigorous things that challenge your brain or challenge your thinking, I think that could actually be good in an application as well to show that you go out of your way to take part in these competitions. I also was helped like a sneaker startup as well, so I was like their social media like strategist kind of. I think that was also helpful to show that I was kind of working half like part-time, but yeah.
Yeah, and apart from the business club, did you have any other leadership roles or anything like that that you highlighted in your
Yeah, so I think I forgot to mention, but I was deputy head girl. So in my final year, I was deputy head girl. I was also prefect. And I would say like these are not like what I'm saying, like these roles are not like groundbreaking or gonna like sway their decision, but it definitely altogether definitely does show that you're a proactive student. And I think that when you do all these things together, it shows that you can handle school and a leadership role and doing an internship and doing an initiative that is interesting to you. So I think that altogether it's important to have like be an all-rounded individual, and in that sense it helps. But if you're not like head girl, I don't think it's going to sway their decision at all. So there's no need to stress about that, but I would say altogether it helps.
right, okay. And just one more important question for um for your profile would be your community service. So apart from the project you did, right? The large project you did, I'm forgetting the name, sorry. But apart from that, was there any other community service work or CAS work that you did for during high school?
Yeah, so I did a lot of cast work. I like basically just took on every opportunity that the school provided. I volunteered at beach cleanups. I did like this like I actually worked at this like environmental group and did like their marketing a little bit um to help save the turtles. I also took part in a Ramadan initiatives program that got featured in the newspaper. So I think that that was, again, like I said, these small things just add up and make your application look good. But we donated a bunch of like meals during Ramadan for the labor workers. So I think that, yeah, that was like kind of the community service that I did. I would say when you're choosing what community service you do, don't just, I mean, for cast, you can do, whatever comes your way, but don't just do anything. It should be something that is meaningful to you and who you are as a person. So I think that because I did my Wakanda, and because I'm all about feminism and all about, education, that's who I am as a person. So my charity initiative and my, ventures were to do with who I am as a person and what I believe in. So don't kind of just do whatever just to show that you're doing community
Right.
services. Will definitely see through that when they're reading your application.
Right. But do you think showing so many CAS hours and community service hours actually played a role in your application? Or was it like a very minor role or a major
I
role?
would say it played a very minor role because it's so easy to put in like, like a few hours here and there and then put it on your application. But I think that for it to stand out, it needs to be something unique. Like everyone donates food and donates clothes and stuff like that. Like you really need to think out of the box. If you're making community service your entire application, you need to think out of the box as to what project you're going to take part in and how impactful that's going to be.
Right. Okay. And did you receive any prizes or awards or anything in school that you think you highlighted?
Nothing. Yeah, nothing significant. I mean, I got like awards for the awards that I put in my application, like highest grades in economics or like most like bilingual because I took like a few languages at a time. But my school didn't really do like awards, like like intense awards or anything. But I got like those like end of year awards. I put it in. I don't think it took away from the application. But I would say if your school offers those awards, I think that that makes a huge difference because I know that my most of my friends were in honors classes that are over here or definitely did get awards. I think that because my school didn't actually provide those opportunities, they know that each school will be different. But if there's awards, I would say do it because I'd say awards are quite important in your application.
Right. And so one burning question I've had is how you were able to balance your time throughout all this because putting in so many CAS hours and community service hours and then also with 4 HLs and the heavy school load and stuff like that. So how do you manage to balance your time for everything?
Um, I would say honestly, that's a good question. I feel like when I was doing it, I didn't think that I was balancing my time. I was always behind, I felt at least, but it all worked out at the end. I think that it's always quality over quantity. So if I'm putting in work to study for my SATs, I'm putting in 2 good hours. I'm not going to sit there and study for 6 hours and burn myself for the next day. Because I think a lot of people do this where they think that, oh, let me just pull an all nighter and write all my college essays until 4 a.m. Well, what's going to happen is the next day you're going to do zero work. The day after that, you're going to do no work again because you're so burnt out from working all those long hours during that one day. So I would say like balancing your time is key. Like just putting in 2 good hours or putting in 3 good hours and dedicating it to one specific thing, whether that was writing my essay or doing or studying for whatever economics HL. Um, that was like how I kind of navigated it. I just like dedicated a small amount of time each day. That way you're not overwhelmed. And when you get overwhelmed, you get burnt out. So I would say don't try to pull all nighters. Sleep is like really important. I never compromised on my sleep. All my friends made fun of me for going to bed at 11 p.m. every day, but that's how I had energy to pull through the next day. So don't pull all nighters. Unless you're a complete night owl, don't pull all nighters. But another piece of advice that I would have is get a good relationship with your teachers because they're actually your biggest asset and your teachers will help you out so much And, even if I was stressed, I would just go to my teachers and be like, listen, I'm so stressed. Please, can I have an extension on this project? And 9 times out of 10, they will say yes. So be on top of your work. But if you feel like you're burnt out, ask for that extension so that you can do it properly and get the good grade on that project. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah. And so you talked about burning out. So then how did you actually avoid getting burnt out? Was it just um making sure you worked in small breaks or like periods of time and making sure you had enough time to yourself? Or
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I would not say that I never got burnt out. I definitely did. I'm like definitely not perfect. I got burnt out quite often, but I realized that it's like actually prioritizing yourself. And like, if in that moment nothing is going in your brain, don't study. Like, just don't study in that moment. Just put it away. And I mean, college is not any easier, but I promise you, I mean, it's a little bit easier. I can't even lie. Your last 2 years of high school, college is not that hard. So when you're studying and when you're going through the process, just think about it and be like, I'm going to be so set for college. And I can see my like friends struggling in college like a lot more than me. And I think that the reason why I'm not struggling that much is because I took on so much in high school. Because actually, like, for being an international student, you have to take on a lot more. You have to learn SATs, you have to learn the American system to do SAT subject tests or do APs. You go out of your way to do that. You know what I mean? You have to apply to all these places. You have to do your own IB, and IB is not easy. So I would say two things. The first thing, to avoid getting burnout, if you're not feeling good in the moment, don't do it. And the second thing, sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent. The second thing is take IB if you can take it. It really prepares you for college like so well. College is definitely hard, but I don't think it's harder than IB. I mean, depending on whatever major you're doing. IB was insanely hard. And yeah, if you take it, you're so set for college, like in terms of time management.
right. And regarding IB, what actually led you towards taking 4 HLs? And do you think highlighting that was actually a big part of your application?
So I actually didn't take 4 HLs for any like strategic move or because I was trying to get into college. What had happened is I didn't know whether I wanted to take business or economics HL, but I knew that I really wanted to take biology and English language HL because I think it's, for being a business major, I think it's really important to have a, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I think that having like a STEM or having like a science as an HL shows that you stand out, because all business majors will take the standard HLs. I mean, if you can take math, please take math HL. I couldn't do it, but if you have math or a science up there, I think that's really helpful. So I was like, I'm taking a science HL. I'm going to take English Langlit. I couldn't choose between business and economics, but I knew that I really wanted to do both. And the workload increase from business HL and business SL wasn't a big deal. So I was like, I might as well just take it because it wasn't a big difference of the workload. And I personally just couldn't choose. So I don't know if it played a big part, but I think that if they were coming down to two applicants and it was one person with 4 and one person with 3, they would probably go with the one with 4. And you get more credits in college. I had more credits than everyone else because who took IB, because I took 4 HLs.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any advice or tips for actually making the college profile and selecting what activities to do and stuff like that?
I guess I've said this, but I'll just say it one more time. Try to whatever activity you try to do, try to make sure that it represents who you are as much as possible, because I know for a fact most college applicants, they can tell when someone else designed this or when someone else is forcing you to do it. Like, whatever you do, make sure that it comes from you and who you are, because at the end of the day, there's so many students with good grades, especially at top colleges, that what they need is that extra edge. And to show that kind of excitement in your application. Don't make your application extra formal. I didn't. I used exclamation marks. In my USC application, like, there's some fun questions at the end. I put some random stuff. I made a funny joke. Like, try to show who you are as a person. I mean, grades are important and everything, but there comes a point where they're like, everyone has good grades. Now what do I do? You know what I mean? So work hard, get your grades up, definitely. But when you're writing your applications, don't lack on really displaying how you're a different human being and how you're unique.
Right. And so, do you have any tips for the essay? Because I know that's really important and a lot of people stress over it. So, do you have any tips for like when to start writing it or like how many like drafts or anything like that?
So I think, okay, I think I forgot to mention this, but I did take a gap year. So it's been a while. Because of COVID, I decided to take a gap year. So I was supposed to be a sophomore, which is why I didn't get the SAT optional benefits. But for the essay, it's been a while, but I will say I think I wrote like 4 drafts. The first one, I mean, I had an idea. So when you're writing the essay, don't just start writing it. Make sure that you have an outline of each paragraph. Like each paragraph should have an idea because you have to make each paragraph interesting. And the top and the bottom of the essay need to be super inspirational and they need to be like linked to each other. So it can't just be random, like, oh, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, and I'm good at this. Not really. It needs to kind of link and it needs to have a kind of a storyline. So you need to create like a message and it needs to be emotive for sure because they read so many applications that they're just waiting for that one that's going to, tingle their emotions or make them feel like, oh, wow, this is great. But yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's a great interview. I think that wraps it up for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi guys. If you'd like a one-page PDF summary of this interview with the key extracurriculars, competitions, leadership positions, classwork, and also updates on the new videos, there's a Google form link in the description. Once you fill it out, we can send it to you. Thank you.